Today we're going to study what's called the Mulapariyaya Sutta. Okay, but this sutta has a Jataka story connected with it too. It's a very interesting story. In fact, it reflects the Buddha's subtle humor. The whole teaching is very long teaching. The translation alone is 52 pages, A4, full translation without omissions, with notes, of course. A group of Brahmins, about 500 of them, have become monks, but they still have this idea that they are Brahmins and they're proud of the fact that they know the three Vedas, they're very well educated and so on, and that the Buddha is not a Brahmin and so on. So they don't respect the Buddha, they look down on him. So the Buddha decided to teach them a lesson. Okay, so this sutta is about that long lesson the Buddha is teaching. All right. Now, before we go into the sutta, let's look at this Jataka story, which gives a kind of very interesting story background to that sutta. Okay, go right to the top, Chai Sing. Yeah. Okay, so you can see here J245. That is a Jataka number. Okay, J is Jataka. Right. Right. There you can see. And then Mulapariyaya. Mula means roots. Pariyaya can mean a lot of things here. A lot of things can mean discourse, exposition, way of teaching, and so on. Jataka story refers to a story in the past life. Right? The birth story on the root teaching. So this is one way to translate it, root teaching. J number 245. This is found in the Pali volume 2, page 259 to 262. All right. Now this paging is long because there are also the Pali commentary to it. Now the theme to this Jataka story is how conceit prevents awakening. Right. All right. The sutta, as usual, starts with the opening Pali words. Kalo gasati bhutanti. Time devours all beings. All right. So the story starts there. This story was told by the teacher while he was staying in the Subhaga Grove near Ukata in connection with the Mulapariyaya Sutta. So there you are, this Jataka story is connected with the sutta we're going to study in a while. At that time, it is said 500 Brahmins, masters of the three Vedas, went forth for the sake of the teaching. So they do have some faith and they became monks. Having mastered the Tipitaka, or the three baskets of texts, they were intoxicated with conceit, thinking, the fully self-awakened one knows the Tipitaka, we too know the Tipitaka. So what is the difference between us, right? So this is a storyteller telling us this story, okay? So there is a bit of problem with this verse. Some of you may already notice it. There was no Tipitaka in the Buddha's time. So this is a storyteller telling us that the monk, these 500 Brahmin monks, they have mastered the Dhamma Vinaya. Usually, if it is a earlier story, we'll say Dhamma Vinaya here. So this is the commentator's story. So we added in this Tipitaka, okay, to show that all the teachings basically. All right. So we have to read it like that, all right, understand it. That we should not just say, oh, no Tipitaka, so this story is false or it's not true. It's just the storyteller's way of saying they know everything about the teaching, so to speak, or so they thought. So these 500 Brahmins, very proud, they ceased to wait upon the Buddha and conducted themselves against him. So they have, we call it hubris, pride. They look down the teacher. One day, when they were seated before him, he expounded the Mulapariyaya Sutta. Okay, that is what we're going to study today. Adorned with the 8 stages of knowledge. Okay, I'll be talking about this a little later. They did not understand a word. Okay, this is one sutta I have to tell you ahead. All the suttas, as long suttas, as a rule, will end with either the monks get awakened or something good happens, or they delighted in it, they feel joyful, they approve of it. But in this case, they did not understand a single word, and they did not approve of the teaching. I'll show you this unique, remarkable ending of the sutta. Only this sutta, this one sutta has got that different ending from all the other suttas. We'll come to that in a while. So these 500 Brahmins couldn't understand the sutta at all. Then they thought, here we had the conceit to think that there is none as wise as we are. Truly, there is none wiser than the Buddha. Oh, the excellent virtues of the Buddha. So now they realize, that they did not know everything. Then they were humbled like serpents with their fangs extracted, right? So they learn a lesson basically, and they start learning basically. So they were ready to go into deeper dhammas. So section 3, when the teacher had stayed as long as he wished in Ukata, he left for Vesali. When he reached the Gotamaka shrine, he expounded the Gotamaka Sutta. Okay, this is another teaching given to these monks, and here the storyteller dramatizes it a bit for the Indian audience. He says, the 10,000 world system trembled. Listening to it, the monks attained arahathood. In modern storytelling, modern movies, this will be like dramatic music, you see? So you have to see it in that way, 10,000 world systems, right? At the end of the Mulapariyaya Sutta, when the teacher was staying at Ukata, the monks discussed the matter in the Dhamma hall. Right? So here you have a later time. No? So these monks, they were talking about this event. The monks talked to each other and said, brothers, how great is the Buddha's power? These Brahmins who have gone forth intoxicated with conceit, but they were humble by the teaching of the Mulapariyaya by the Blessed One. The teacher arrived and asked, what monks were you all discussing here seated together? They told him regarding the matter of their discussion. Monks, said the Buddha, this is not the first time that I have humbled them who used to hold their heads so high with conceit. I've done so. I've done the same in the past. All right. So here, Jataka stories are always like that. The Buddha, there's something happen in the present that the Buddha will say, oh, okay, in the past it happened too, and it's like this. Now, this kind of pattern shows us that we are all creatures of habits. Many of the bad things or maybe of the faults we have, it's not just in the present life. It happened in the past life also. So we tend to carry it on. And with understanding the Dhamma, understanding ourselves, we can overcome this. So here we see the Buddha breaking that loop, freeing the monks from their conceit. All right, so here the Buddha tells the story of the past. So the previous parts are all story from the present, all right? It's the background to the teaching of the Mulapariyaya Sutta. And now the Buddha tells the Jataka. Long ago, when Brahmadatta was ruling in Benares, this is a modern equivalent is once upon a time, all right, long ago. The Bodhisattva. Okay, here you see in the commentary, the word Bodhisattva here referring to the Buddha in the past life. We don't see this usage in the suttas, but it's only in the commentary stories, in the Jataka. The Bodhisattva means this person who's going to become the future Buddha, our Gautama. The Bodhisattva was born into a Brahmin family. When he came of age, he mastered the 3 Vedas along with the invocations and rituals. Okay, further down. Phonology, sounds, and etymology, meaning of words. And the Itihasa Puranas is traditional stories of heroes and so on. That's the 5th. There are 5 types of learning here. And well-versed in materialistic philosophy, that is philosophy of the world and the marks of the great man. Okay, so this according to the Buddhist tradition. He became a teacher well known far and wide, instructing 500 Brahmin youth in the sacred mantras. The 500, being clever, put in their best efforts in the arts. The Brahmin too, as the teacher, did not have the close feast of some teachers, but taught them every branch of knowledge as if pouring water into a jar, telling them, this branch of knowledge leads to such and such welfare in this life and in the next. In time, when they completed their learning, they thought, we know as much as the teacher. There's no difference. we too can now be teachers. Conceited and stubborn, they did not go before the teacher and failed to perform their duties their duties and chores. Right? So notice here is where the teacher does not hide anything, he teaches everything. This is the tradition of Buddhism. But in this case, the pupils became proud and arrogant, and this is a kind of warning to our own times, right? When we learn something, we should learn to be humble and respect the teacher, respect the teaching. So now they look down on the teacher. Section 3. One day, they saw the teacher sitting under a jujube tree. Wishing to mock the teacher, they tapped the jujube tree with their fingernails. A worthless tree, they said. So it's hinting, oh, this is an old tree, yeah? Right? So this kind of, you can imagine it's like a Hindi movie, you know? All right, so the Bodhisattva, the teacher, noticing that his pupils were mocking him, thought, I will cut down their conceit. I will cut down their conceit. So how did he do it? So one day, when they came to attend to him, the other students, after they had saluted him and taken their seats, he said, I will ask you a question. Ask us, said the students, we will answer. They laughed with delight, intoxicated with the pride of their learning. The teacher asked the question by uttering the first stanza. Okay, this is a riddle. It's quite famous in Indian stories. A riddle. Time devours all beings, together with everything, even itself. Now the being that devours time burns the burner of beings. Wow, this is an amazing riddle, right? Having heard the question, not one amongst the youths, so they were very young students, were able to answer and could only remain silent. Then the Bodhisattva dismissed them and said, do not think that this question is in the three Vedas. You think that you know all that I know? Out of your conceit, you make a jujube tree out of me? But you know that I know much that is not known to you. Leave me now. I give you 7 days. During that time, think of an answer for the question, right? So having saluted the Bodhisattva, each of them left for their own house, where for 7 days they thought over the problem, making neither head nor tail of it. Now on the 7th day, they came back to the teacher, greeted him and sat down. All right, now the teacher now teases them. Now the teacher says, what lucky mouths, right? Lucky mouth, like talkative mouth, okay? Talkative ones. What lucky mouths is the answer to the question? And they all answered, we don't know. We don't know, okay? Now let's see what happens next. All right, now the Bodhisattva explains the second stanza. Notice the number 191, that is the Jataka number, the verse number. Men have heads on their shoulders, their soft hair grows, and bound it is to the necks. Where are those with ears? Okay, this is not in the sutta, this is Jataka. Now the teacher is scolding the pupil, if you like, all right? Kind of mocking the pupils in turn. Hearing this, the youth sat silent, dismayed, their shoulders drooping, hanging their heads, glum, unable to speak, at loss for words, scratching the ground with their fingers. Okay? You are fools, said the teacher. There are merely holes in your ears, but no wisdom, he rebuked the youth. Learn then, dears, the solution to this question. And then he answered this question. Right? So this is the commentary in that verse. So it says, time is the earlier part of the day and later part of the day. Of course, this is obvious. Beings are living beings. Time does not eat the skin and flesh of beings, but swallows and devours them by depriving them of life, beauty, and strength, by crushing their youth and destroying their health. Right? So that's how time takes over us, together with everything, even itself. Thus, devouring them, it does not omit anything and devours all. Not only does it devour all beings, but also itself, right? So time passes. When time passes, time is gone, right? For the earlier part of the day does not remain when the later part arrives. And the later part of the day does not remain when the next day arrives. Okay? Now comes the Buddhist part. Huh? The being that devours time is the Arhat. The one with cankers destroyed, he is called the being who devours time, because he has eaten up time by destroying future rebirths. He burns the burner of beings. It is craving that burns beings up in the suffering states. This craving, the Arhat has burned up with the fire of knowledge and reduced them to ashes. As such, he is said to burn the burner of beings. Right? So, in other words, this time represents ignorance, and the wisdom that we gain through awakening, through meditation and awakening, overcomes time. That is nirvana. Now here you see a very interesting overlapping of the Vedas and the Buddhist teaching in the Jataka stories. So this is, in other words, a story which was told by the commentators. So they've used this story in the Buddhist way. Because otherwise, if you take this as a historical story told by Brahmins, they won't know anything about the Arahats. They're not awakened yet, you see. So this is how we should understand the nature of the Jatakas. They are lessons meant to help us understand the deeper teachings. So this is called literary license, in other words. So you find in many stories like fairy tales, fiction, great literature, you have this kind of way of storytelling. The words are not important. Important thing is the ideas presented to us and how our conduct, behavior, way of thinking can become better. All right. So 11. Having heard the answer, the youth understood the question as clearly as the smooth and rough parts of a road lit up at night by the light of 1,000 lamps. And they said, as long as life lasts, we will live under our teacher. Great indeed are our teachers. We are so puffed up with conceit on account of learning that we do not even know the meaning of a 4-line stanza. Then they begged for his forgiveness, gave up their conceit, and waited on the Bodhisattva, and in the next life were reborn in heaven. And having given this Dhamma discourse, the teacher connected the birth story. The 500 youth then were these monks. I myself was their teacher then. So you see, there's this connection, past life connection. So they have done good in the past, and now they come back as monks again under the teacher. Thus, in the past too, I humbled them when they were going about with their heads upward conceit. Hearing this, Jataka, they thought, in the past too, we were knocked down because of conceit and became even more humble and devoted themselves even more to their individual meditation subjects. So notice the story closes with them going into their practice. So what did we learn from this? Well, sometimes people may not be kind to us, even especially people who are close to us, even in our families. It's because in the past life also this has happened. This is a matter of habit, so it's nothing personal in a sense. So you have to think of ways and means of overcoming this, of accepting others so that they can change too. And of course, you can ask them to read this Jataka story, which helps us to see beyond ourselves. So this is the Mulapariyaya Jataka. Okay, now we look at the sutta itself. So then to the sutta. Yes, that's right. Okay, you can see that this is sutta. This is chapter 8, ST 11.8. Mulapariyaya Sutta, the discourse on the root teaching M1. Wow, this is Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 1, the very opening sutta, very auspicious. No? The nature of primary causes or conceits. So we have two aspects here. All right, you have the contents that can help you look at it. Now you notice there are 8 cycles, okay? 8 cycles, or if you like, 8 grounds, bhumis. They refer to each kind of person, from the unawakened person to the Buddha. Tathagata is the Buddha. So the first cycle refers to the ordinary person, not awakened like any of us. And then the second cycle meaning everything is the same. Now notice here, after the introduction, 3 to 26, there are 24 what are called bases. Bases, that means themes, teachings, if you like, 24 bases. And this 24 repeat itself. Everything is, you calculate here, be 24, 24, 24, 8 of them. Okay, so first cycle, that is 8 things. How this uninstructed worldling view these 8 things. In the second cycle, the learner on the path, meaning the stream winner, once returner, non-returner, okay, sees this, all right? Then in the third cycle, you have the Arahat. This is a general definition of the Arahat. And then there's a third cycle, then fourth cycle, this is another kind of Arahat. Now here you have 3 Arahats, fourth, fifth, sixth cycle. How they get awakened? By reflecting on different things. We will look at this a little later. Okay, so basically it's connected with the anicca, dukkha, anatta, all right? How they refer to these things and how they meditate, all right? And then cycle 7, cycle 8 are 2 kinds of Buddhas. Cycle 7 is the Pacceka Buddha, Pratyeka Buddha. This is the English word. And then the last one is our Buddha, the fully self-awakened one. Right? So this one is the most detailed one, right? But they all have 8 grounds repeated. So what's the confusing part is people see these 8 things repeated 8 times. 24 bases repeated on these 8 grounds. So 24 times 8, you have 192 roots. In other words, the Buddha has summarized all the roots of knowledge and understanding regarding any kind of views. So can you imagine how mind-boggling this is? Nobody could understand it, those 100 monks. Even I couldn't understand it until recently. So this is a very brief summary. Now, of course, hearing this, those Brahmins could not understand a word. And as I told you, this is the only sutta which is, the ending is different. Okay, let's look at the ending. Go right to the end. Okay, look at this. The ending further down. Okay, there you are, 196. This is what the Buddha said. The monks did not rejoice in the Blessed One's word. Notice, in all the other sutta, this not is missing. Did not is missing. The sutta will tell you the monks rejoiced in the Blessed One's word, or approve of the Blessed One's word, right? So why they did not rejoice is explained in the Jataka story. Now this, I'm trying to complete this sutta in one session if possible. If I feel that we will still a lot more to talk, we will continue in the next round, okay? Now, the key to understanding this sutta is the diagram which I've prepared, table 1.2, okay? And we look at this colorful table 1.2, which Ratna has done. Just wait a moment. Here you are. Let's look at this beautiful table done by Ratna. Table 1.2, a schematic table of the Mulapariyaya Sutta teachings. This is the key to understanding the sutta. Start with this, okay? You just look at this, all right? And the sutta will tell you, when you look at the notes I've given you, it will tell you to start by looking at row 1. Now Now, first of all, you look at the headings, okay? You have 8 cycles. Each of these are 8 cycles, okay? And then you have persons. There are 4 groups of persons. This one's 1, 2, and then here another, I think 3 here, 3 here. Okay, so 8 altogether, right? So 8 cycles, 8 persons. And then the way they perceive things, how they perceive whatever is before them, and then how they respond. Okay, this is Sutta will tell you. Then they conceive. Conceive means to think about it. Here is through the senses. Perceive is through the senses. Conceive is through the mind. Right. Now, these two I've spoken a lot about in the study of the Sanya, that is the one of the 5 aggregates in volume 17, okay, perception Sanya. Yeah? Now this one is in elsewhere, okay, the Samatha Sutta, Mahanidada, and so on, okay, conception. Remember, perceive is how we experience through the senses, this one's through the mind, how the mind experience the world. And then how did they respond to it emotively, all right? And then the last one, why? Reasons, why did they do that? Right? So this is the 7 columns. Now let's look at the first one. An ordinary person. This one's not awakened, could be a scholar, could be any of us. Right? So he perceives X. Now, X could be anything like earth, the various beings, even nirvana. Okay, so an idea, X. No? So perceive X as X, and then they also think about it. Okay, but then they think it in terms of the self, right? And then they delight in it. They feel proud and happy about it, right? Why? Because they have not fully understood what actually is. For example, earth, water, fire, wind, or the nature of nirvana, nature of devas, nature of meditation, right, and so on. X. Yeah? So this is the first group. Okay. Now, although I have given you this, it's bit by bit. It's like feeding you a bit of food at a time. No? So you find still, oh, what is he talking about, right? So you got to look at it again in your free time, study this, get used to this, and then look at this section 3 to 26 in the suttas. Look at it. Don't try to take too much. Just look at this first part. Look at it, and then don't make an attempt to say, what does this mean? If you cannot understand it, never mind. Just read it and then go on to the next one. Complete the section, and then reflect overall. What idea do you get? Realization will come to you. You cannot think the realization. It will come to you, right? Then you go through this number 1 again, this part here. Then you find, oh, you understand it better, and so on, right? So this is the first one, first line. So this is the ordinary person. Then in part 2, section 27 to 50, you have the learner. And this is the saint of the path, streamliner, and so on. So he also perceives X just like this person. He directly knows X, but here you see here that does not directly know. In the case of the streamliner, he directly knows streamliner, once-returner, non-returner. He sees things directly as they are. Now, just because people see things directly doesn't mean they're awakened yet, because they can forget it. So notice, they can see things directly. Meaning, they can see suffering, they can see impermanence, they can understand non-self. But the next step is they should not conceive X. They should not imagine it. They should not create those ideas in their minds. They should not conceive X. They should not conceive that they are located in X, or that they come from X, X could be earth, water, fire, wind, some God idea, nirvana, remember? They should not conceive they come from X. They should not conceive X is mine, or this is my earth, this is my God, this is my nirvana, or whatever. Okay. So they should not delight in X. Notice here, it's a kind of giving, teaching advice. The Buddha says should not, right? Why? So that they may fully understand X. So they're not awakened yet. I mean, they are on the path, but not awakened yet. Okay. Now we come to the arahats. So there are, notice here, these arahats, you have anicca, dukkha, anatta, right? So this is connected with the way the arahats, the three kinds of arahats mentioned in the sutta. So this arahat perceive X, they see the same thing. Notice this perceive X is all the same. The senses work in the same way whether the person is enlightened or not enlightened. But in the case, notice also in the case of the learner, arahat, the Buddha, they all directly know X. When they see earth, they all directly know it is earth. They see, if they have to see the meditation, they also know what kind of meditation it is. And in a sense, they also can see nirvana, but they have not experienced it. It's like they see from afar. Like you and I have a good idea or some idea what nirvana is, for example, but we have not experienced it. So they directly know, okay? In the case of the learner. Of course, for our case, normally we use the word perceive, although some of us may understand better, yeah? Okay, so in the case of the arahat, he does not conceive. Notice all does not conceive X, does not conceive in X, does not conceive from X, does not conceive X is mine. In the case of the saints of the path, streamwinner, etc., they should not, etc., right? Should not. But here, the arahat does not, because the arahat already is awakened, he does not. In fact, you will notice the arahat and the Buddha, no difference. Buddha also does not conceive. So the awakening is the same. And notice here again, emotive response. How they respond, they do not delight. The arahat does not delight in X. Buddha also does not delight in X. Same. Okay? Now the last one, why? Why is it so? In the case of the arahat, because the arahat has fully understood X, he is free of greed, hate, delusion. Free of greed, hate, delusion. Right? So that's the arahat. Now we come to the last two persons, 7 and 8. That is the two kinds of Buddhas. Yeah? You have the Pachika Buddha and the Vijacharana Sampanna Buddha. Okay. Here I put some Buddha first. In the sutta, I put some Buddha second. Huh? So in this case, they perceive X just like anyone else. They directly know X just like the Arahat and the saints of the path. And they don't conceive in X or X in X from X. X is mine, just like the other saints. And the Buddhas too do not delight in X, same, because the awakening is the same in this case. But in the case of the Buddha, they are different because they have understood the root of X, whereas the others, they have not fully understood down to the root. Whereas the Buddha has true dependent arising. Now what's interesting here is, you notice in this case, Pachika Buddha and Sammasambuddha are mentioned together, and they both awaken through dependent to seeing dependent arising. In other words, they are not separated, but later commentaries would say, okay, the Sammasambuddha is fully enlightened through seeing all this omniscience, whereas the Pachika Buddha is so called because he sees the dependent arising. So they began to differentiate, systematize. Right? We don't see that in the sutta. Okay, so here we see the Pachika Buddha and the Sammasambuddha awaken in the same way, Only thing in the case of the Pachika Buddha, or sometimes called private Buddha, he arises in a time when people were not ready to listen to the Dhamma, when the lifespan of human beings is too short or too long, so that they won't be able to understand the teaching. Right? So that's the only difference. So this is a quick summary. So I'll stop here for a short break, and then we will continue after this, about 5 minutes break. Okay. Okay, we'll just leave the recording as it is, and then we'll come back in a while and look into the sutta. Okay, now I will take leave for a short while.
Yeah, we'll take a 1 minute break. Thank you.
Now we will continue. You can see the sutta before you, or you have the notes in front of you. Mulapariyaya Sutta, the Discourse on the Root Teaching. M1. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying at the foot of the royal sal tree. That means it's a very old, big tree, royal sal tree in the Subhaga Grove near Ukata. Grove means this forest is owned by someone and he has cultivated this forest, grove. There the Blessed One addressed the monks, Bhikshus, Venerable Sir, or Bhadante is the Sutta records name. There's a typo extra I in front. Bhadante, the monks answered the Blessed One in assent. The Blessed One said, I will show you, Bhikshus, the exposition on the root of all things. Listen, pay close attention, I will speak. Yes, Bhante, the monks answered the Blessed One in assent. The Blessed One said, okay, so the teaching begins. All right, notice here we have the first cycle. So there are 8 cycles. Tonight, if there's time, I will only teach you the first cycle and the last cycle. We'll see how. And kind of summarize the cycles in between, because there's a lot of repetition, but with different highlights. So this first cycle is how the ordinary person who has not fully understood the teaching, reality, X refers to things around us. Okay, so how does the ordinary worldly person perceive things and experience things, basically? Here, bhikshus, an ignorant ordinary person or uninstructed worldling who has no regard for the noble ones and is unskilled in the dhamma of the noble ones. So in other words, they don't care about arahats, they make fun of arahats, they look down on the non-returners, once-returners, and stream-winners, right? Undisciplined in the dhamma of the noble ones, who has no regard for the true persons. These are those who are practicing the right path. Is unskilled in the dhamma of the true persons, undisciplined in the dhamma of the true person. Notice the word here, unskilled, here means a mental cultivation. Undisciplined here refers to moral development. Yeah? So this person, you can see one here. Okay, you see what I've done is in the latest version, I put this 1 square brackets italicized number 1 to 34. So you see these 8 cycles of 1 to 24. So they are the same thing. So the first one is on earth, right? You can see the note 43 explaining to you. No? Don't read the notes now because you'll be distracted. On your own afterwards, you can look closer. Now listen, and the listening will guide you through the sutta, and that guidance will help you practice the sutta on your own. So the listening is very important now. Italicize 1. So this person perceives earth as earth. Having perceived earth as earth, he conceives himself as earth. So earth here refers to elements, say like solid, okay, of course including the ground, earth. This person looks at something solid, he conceives, he creates ideas in his mind, okay. Further down, okay, and he conceives himself in earth. he conceives himself apart from earth. Right? So this is how he look at how self and others, self and earth, how they are related. So he has this idea, conceives, and he conceives earth is mine. So he feels he owns this earth, this solid thing in front of him. Yeah, earth here represents solid, something solid. He delights in earth. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding. Right? So this is quite simple enough to understand in theory, notice, but it needs some reflection to go further. We should not take the terms as they are. Okay? Earth doesn't mean just the earth we stand on. It means solidity, right? Earth element. You want notes on the 4 elements? Earth, water, fire, wind? You let me know, we'll send it to you. So it's obvious that if the first one is earth and second one is water, so everything repeats. He perceives water as water, having perceived water as water, he conceives himself as water, right? We say, oh, our body is 75% water and so on, right? He conceives himself in water, he conceives himself apart from water. These are different ways of thinking, in other words. He conceives water is mine. Maybe this person owns a river, say, for example. He delights in the idea water, or he sees water, he feels very happy about it. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it, I say. And same thing with fire, right? Fire here is heat, warmth. He perceives fire as fire. Having perceived fire as fire, he conceives himself as fire, warmth, heat, right? He conceives himself in fire. He conceives himself apart from fire. He conceives fire is mine. He thinks of owning it. He delights in fire. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it, I say. And then the same thing for wind. He perceives wind or air as wind or air. Having perceived wind as wind, he conceives himself as wind. He conceives himself in wind. He conceives himself from wind, apart from wind. He conceives wind as mind. He delights in wind. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it, I say. Okay, so here, this first 4 of the 24 bhumis or bases, or watu rather, or bases, right? It deals with the 4 elements: earth, fire, water, wind. Now, next section, notice here 1 means this means the first ground. They're all 1, 1, 1. Now here you see 5. This is the 5th base. The 24 of them. This is number 5. Okay. So remember this. If you are lost, look at this. It will tell you where you are. Okay. This is paragraph number of the sutta. Okay. This one. This is the teaching of the bases. 5th base. He perceives beings. All right. So you have beings and gods in this category. He perceives beings as beings. Having perceived beings as beings, he conceives beings. He creates his own idea. He sees himself in beings. He sees himself apart from beings. He conceives beings are mine. Right. So, for example, he has workers. Say, oh, all these workers belong to me, for example, or all these followers belong to me, and so on. He delights in the idea beings. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of the nature of beings, I say. Right? So this is the 5. Now, further down, we go to number 6. Notice here, italicized 6. So this is the 6th base. He perceives gods or devas as gods. If you don't believe in gods, it's okay. You can think in terms of aliens if you like. Okay. Having perceived gods as gods, he conceives gods. So he thinks of this god, that god. And he conceives himself in gods. He conceives himself apart from gods. Right? He conceives gods are mine. Okay, this is my god. He delights in the idea of gods. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it. So this, the Atelic Science 6 is a general idea. Now Atelic Science 7, this one, has a specific idea, a specific god. So in this case, in India, they think of Prajapati. Prajapati means Lord of Men. Okay, it is you can say it's a term for creator god, if you like. Okay, so you can have different names from different religions. So he perceives Prajapati as Prajapati, or as capital G God. Having perceived Prajapati as Prajapati, he conceives Prajapati. So he makes up ideas about Prajapati is like this, like that. He conceives himself in Prajapati. He thinks that, oh, I am in this God. Or he thinks that he's apart. This Prajapati is great, wonderful. I'm just a small creature. Right? He conceives Prajapati is mine. This is my God, and so on. He delights in the idea of Prajapati. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it, I say. This, notice, is the same. This last line is always the same. Right? He does not fully understand it. Right? This is the reason. Now we go to a new section. This whole section is about the four form sphere gods. Notice here is one again. This is the first cycle. Yeah? And this refers to how the ignorant person look at the first dhyana sphere. The sphere means the beings living in that kind of universe. And this is the eighth base, or Vatu, way of thinking, if you like. In this case, this person is able to reach the first jhana, and he's able to see Brahma. He perceives Brahma as Brahma. Brahma is also a high god. He, having perceived Brahma as Brahma, he conceives Brahma. He conceives himself in Brahma. He conceives himself apart from Brahma. He conceives Brahma is mine. He delights in Brahma. Why? Because he lacks full understanding of it, I say. Right? So the last time, all the same, he lacks full understanding, so he thinks in these different ways. Then, next section, italicize 9. So here, the same applies to other gods of these are the gods of the second dhyana sphere, higher up. These are the Abhasara gods. He perceives the gods of Abhasara, steep streaming radiance as Abhasara. And then everything repeats itself. Having perceived Abhasara gods as Abhasara gods, he conceives Abhasara gods. He conceives himself in Abhasara gods. He conceives himself apart from Abhasara gods. He conceives Abhasara gods are mine. He delights in Abhasara gods. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it. So you notice the style of it is amazing, how the Buddha could relate, summarize the nature of being in like a computer program. Yeah? So this alone, this repetitiveness is what confusing to a lot of us, full of defilements. We say the sutta is dull. It's because we are dull. It's because we do not know how to follow the nature of this program teaching called the sutta. Those of you who have studied computer programming, coding, and so on, and you look at the sutta and say, oh, this looks familiar. I can code this, in fact. I can write it into like a program. You know? There is some principle behind it, following the programming approach. And then the next one is the third dhyana, and this time the gods are called Subhakina. I won't repeat this time because everything is the same, right? They see this, they conceive the gods, and so on. And then this meditator attains the fourth dhyana, and he's able to see that we have Pala God in the fourth dhyana. We have Pala gods, and he does the same. He perceives these gods, he experiences them, and then he thinks about them. He makes up ideas, conceives. These are gods called by this name, and he sees himself in the gods, he sees himself apart from the gods, or he conceives these gods are mine. He delights in them. Why? Because he lacks full understanding of them. And now he sees this higher god still, Abhibu. Now this is very interesting because this Abhibu is never mentioned as any gods among the in a Buddhist cosmology, you know. So you can see note 56 there. It says that it's possible that this Abhibu could refer to a class of gods in the Vihapala. One possibility is, this Abibu also is a name for Mara, So this is one of those really powerful gods who like to mess up with us. So he's able to see these kind of gods, and then he has the same attitude to them. Okay, he conceives them in the same way. All right, so that's number 12. Okay, let's look at 13. This time it goes into the formless spheres. So you can already guess quite right. He goes into any of the 4 form spheres. This is a very high meditator, and he sees the gods of the infinite space, the gods of, first of finite space, and then second, number 14, he sees or experiences the gods of the sphere of infinite consciousness. And then he goes higher still, section 15, notice 15 italicized, the sphere of nothingness. This is the third formless realm. And then 16 italicized, he sees the gods of the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, the highest of the realms of beings. And the same thing happens. Okay, he perceives these gods, and then he conceives them, and then he conceives himself in them, apart from them, and conceives these gods are mine. He connects with them, okay, because he has experienced that very high level of meditation. So this is from the meditative level. Now what happens next? Let's go further and look. Okay, now number 17. These are, we're coming to near the second half. The 4 modes of perception, 4 ways how we experience things. Actually, we experience things in 6 ways. Here, the 3 of them have been combined. Okay, smell, touch, and taste have been combined to one as sensed. Okay, sense. Can you see 19 here? Sense. No? So look at 17 first. He perceives the seen as the seen. Okay, so this is, say, like a scientist sees something, say, okay, I can see something. Having perceived the seen as the seen, he conceives himself as the seen. Maybe he's an artist. Okay, he sees himself as the seen. He conceives himself in the scene, in sights, in other words, what forms, what can be seen. He conceives himself apart from the scene. He conceives the scene is mine. What can be seen is mine. He delights in the scene. Maybe he's an artist, okay? Maybe he's a scientist. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it, I say. And then in terms of the heard, that is sound, he does the same thing. Having perceived the heard as the heard, or sound as sound, if you like, he conceives regarding sound in different ways, connected with the self, wrong ways. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it. I say here's the Buddha stressing, I say. And then same thing, he perceives the sense, what is smell, taste, touched. Right? Same thing, has the sense, and then he conceives it in different ways. Now all these are physical senses. Then 20 italicized, the known. Here's to the mind, knowledge. Right? He perceives the known as the known. Having perceived the known as the known, then he applies all these 4 ways of thinking of the self to what he knows. This is mine, and so on. All right. Why? Because he lacks full understanding of the nature of knowledge. Right? So that's number 20 already, yeah. And then now we go 4 more to go. All right. Now you see the last 4, the modes of personal identity. This is very direct, very clear. He perceives unity as unity. Here meaning we look at things as one. For example, we may say everything is one, So he has this idea, everything is one, and he conceives himself as one, and so on. So these are the 4 kind of self-ideas he applies to unity. Or he could go the opposite way, 22. He perceives everything is different, manyness. Number 21 is oneness, 22 is manyness. So this is a philosophical idea, and he conceives this idea. Everything is diversified, many, and goes on thinking like that. and he delights in this idea. He said, "This is my idea." Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it, I say. And then finally, no, not finally, the second last, 23. He perceives all as all. Okay, this all, like we like to say everything, all, you know. So according to the Buddha, all is everything that our senses can experience. First, our senses, what our senses experience, the sense objects, and the consciousness behind it, right? So, and of course, when we talk of the all, different philosophies, different religions will describe it differently. So the Buddha simply says the all. I originally used the all, but it sounds a bit odd, so I just simply cut it down to the all, to all, just all. No? Having perceived all as all, he conceives himself as all, if you like, everything, there's another word for it, and so on, the four different self-views. And he delights in this idea of this identity, with all. And why? Because he lacks full understanding of it, I say, or says the Buddha. And now the last one, 24, is about nirvana. Okay, this probably applies to the Buddhist. He perceives nirvana as nirvana, but nirvana can refer to any kind of philosophical idea of how life is consummated or ended and so on. So he perceives nirvana as nirvana. Having perceived nirvana as nirvana, he conceives himself as nirvana, in nirvana, apart from nirvana. This nirvana is mine. So it identifies with nirvana, but that's not nirvana. Okay? So although he thinks that it is nirvana. Why is that? Because he lacks full understanding of it, I say. Okay, there you are. We have completed the 24, what do you call, the basis for the ordinary worldly person. 192 roots of wrong views, if you like, right? That's the first cycle. Now, in the second cycle, it's about the learner. This is the stream winner, once returner, non-returner. So here we go too quickly. You notice here, this 27 is the introduction, which is important. Here, Bhikshus, a monk is a learner, one in the higher training, who has not won mental perfection, and who still dwells aspiring to win supreme security from bondage. So this person is a stream winner onwards, but not yet Arhat, right? So here one is the same, all right, everything is the same. But notice the word here is let him not conceive. He should not conceive. In the notes, you say should not, no? So here the Buddha says, let him not conceive himself as earth. So this is a training, the Buddha said, do not think in this way, because this stream winner still may get caught in this idea. So this sentence structure are the same throughout the 24 basis for this section, section 2 here. See this big number 2, right? So now we look at next one quickly. Now further down. Okay, notice here same thing: earth, water, fire, wind. Same thing. Let him not conceive of any of these elements in the term of self. That's one way of putting it. And same thing in terms of beings and gods. The Buddha says, let him. No, he should not, or let him not conceive all these beings in terms of self. Okay, same thing. All the other 6 further down will be the various form sphere gods. 6, 7 are the different gods, and then of the what they call, these are the gods of the sense world. Whereas here, form sphere, the rupa jhana, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so and 12, because the overcomer is also mentioned. So whether they're gods of the form world or formless world, let him not conceive any ideas about it. Okay, so we can see how this works. This is 42. Let me see my notes here. 42. Okay, so then we come to near the end. The four modes of perception, right? So notice 17, 18, 19, and then the Buddha says the same thing. When you experience anything, do not get caught up with it in terms of self. Okay. So then finally the last, I think it's the four, right? Last four, the modes of personal identity, whether it in terms of unity or diversity or all, in terms of nirvana, do not conceive in terms of self. Any of the four ways here. Okay. So this is for the learner. Okay. Now we come to 23 and then 24. Now the third cycle. Okay. Third cycle is the Arahat. Now Arahat's case, very interesting. You see this 51, the introduction is different. This is the Arahat pericope, the stock passage. Here bhikshus among with an Arahat, with mental influxes destroyed, who has lived a holy life, done what has to be done, laid down the burden, reached his own goal, destroyed the fetters of beings, liberated through right knowledge. This is how the suttas define Arahat. So Arahat is fully awakened, just like the Buddha, but after the Buddha. Now let's look at how he perceives the elements. 51.2. He directly knows earth as earth. Having directly known earth as earth, he does not conceive. Notice here, everything changes to does not throughout all the 24 bases. He does not conceive himself as earth or in earth apart from earth. He does not conceive earth is mine. He does not delight in earth. Why is that? Because he has fully understood parinyata, I say. Right? So the Arahat has fully understood the nature of all this. But the ignorant person has not the saying, the streaming and so on, is training himself to reach this stage of the Arahat. And the same thing with water. He does not conceive himself in terms of self. Right? Further down, 3 and 4, we have fire, wind. Everything's repeated here. He does not delight in them. In terms of beings and gods too, he directly knows beings as beings, but he does not delight in them because he has fully understood them. Same thing with the gods of the sense sphere. Okay, further down, same thing with the gods of the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and fourth jhana. Okay, same thing because he has fully understood the nature of all these beings. And also the beings of the four formless spheres. The sphere of infinite space, the sphere of infinite consciousness, first the sphere of finite space, the sphere of infinite space, the sphere of infinite consciousness, the sphere of nothingness, the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. All this he does not conceive in terms of the self because he has fully understood them. And then further down, same thing with the seen, the four modes of perception, the seen, the heard, the sensed, and the known or cognized. Same thing, he does not see them in terms of self because he has fully understood them. And same thing in terms of unity, diversity, all, and nirvana. So this is number 24, notice, right? Okay, so that is the Arahat in general. Now we come to 75. Okay, this is how this Arahat is awakened. Now, so here, this Arahat is fully understood. He freed himself from the three roots. All right, so here the definition is the same of the Arahat. And further down, the Arahat is fully fully awakened like the Buddha, further down. So again, everything is the same for the Arahat. This is just referring to the Arahat who reflects on impermanence, for example. Yeah. And then the next kind of Arahat is the same. Now everything is the same, so I'm not going to go to them again. He does not conceive because he has fully understood. So there you are. You see this Arahat 3, right? Free from hate. Okay. So he reflects on the nature of non-self, and he overcomes hate. Once you overcome one root, the rest are also overcome, right? So you have these arahats, they reflect on impermanence, on suffering, on suffering, on non-self. So these are the 3 different categories, how they get enlightened, depending on how they reflect, how they meditate. Okay, so they go through all this, which are the same. They do not see any of these 24 bases as in terms of self in any way. All right. So we go down. So we come to the Buddha this time. Tathagata. Okay. Okay. This is the 4th one. He is free from delusion. Okay. This is the 4th kind of. You look at the diagram. Everything is summarized there. And further down to go to the next section, the Buddha section. Okay, here you are. So this is the first kind of Tathagata. This is the Pachika Buddha. Okay. So here, Bhikshu, the Tathagata Buddha does come, worthy the Arhat fully self-awakened, directly knows earth as earth. Having directly known earth as earth, he does not conceive himself as earth. So this is the same as the Arhat. Notice, he does not delight in earth because he has fully understood it. So all same as the Arhats. Right, so everything else are the same for the Buddha. In other words, this is the description of the mind of the Buddha. It's the same. The way he looks at the gods, the way he looks at the jhana gods, form jhana, formless jhana, is the same. It is a formless jhanas. Further down, the four modes of perception is the same. What he senses, he does not own. And what he thinks also, ideas of diversity, unity, does not own it. Okay, so same thing with nirvana. Now look at this. Wait, hold on just a while. So same thing with nirvana. All right. So he does not delight. Notice he does not delight in nirvana, meaning the idea of nirvana. Okay. He does not have to delight in nirvana because the Buddha is in nirvana. Right? Why? Because the Tathagata, the Buddha, has fully understood it, I say. And now we come to the 8th last cycle. This Tathagata who is fully self-awakened. This is the like our Buddha, right? Yes, the definition is the same. Fully self-awakened. So everything is the same here. In fact, nothing is different. So except for a few lines, right? Here, notice 171.3. Why does he not delight in earth? So there's an extra 2 lines here. Because he knows that delight is the root of suffering. And on that account of being, there is birth, and having come into being, there is decay and death. So this is the early definition of dependent arising, right? Very simple formulation. So now this is a refrain. Refrain means the chorus is repeated. Therefore, bhikshus, through complete destruction of craving, okay, go down some more. Through fading away of lust, through cessation of suffering, through letting go of defilement, the Tathagata has attained full awakening, I say. Right? So this is the Nibbida sequence, so showing how the Buddha awakens. And same thing applies to water, wind, and so on. Everything repeats itself, right down to the ending is different. Only the ending is different. Everything is the same here as the previous Buddha, a previous section on the Buddha. And then you see 24. We're coming to it now, 23 and then 24. Okay, here you are. So everything is the same after here. And then this last part also is this. So you notice this refrain is different, right? Complete destruction of craving, and then you have the Nibbida sequence showing that the Buddha is fully self-awakened, right? So this last part, the closing, is the refrain that appears after each one of the 24 bases or what to. Yeah? So that completes 192 roots of existence laid out. The number is not mentioned, but you calculate, that's the number you get. So this is what the Blessed One said. The monks did not rejoice in the Blessed One's word because they didn't understand a word. I'm not surprised many of you here don't understand a word also. But this is the beginning. You have some idea in your mind. Even as I say it, you say, okay, I get a bit here, a bit there. This is the starting, all right? I can, take 2 weeks and explain everything, all the repetition, and you probably fall asleep. So what I've done here, I've gone through an overview. I've not taught you the sutta, but I've taught you how to study the sutta. And I've given you the key, that is the overview. So study the overview, study the sutta, all right? So if any of you say, oh, I understand, wow, I'll be really amazed. I mean, I'll really say, sadhu, it's wonderful if you could do that. I'm sure there are people like that. But usually it would take time. So I'm going to stop here and give you about 15 minutes of question. Okay, let's see how I can help further. All right. Is Exim here?
Yes.
Oh, very wonderful. Okay. Right, we can close this sutta and then we see everyone.
Brother Piya for the sutta explanation.
Yeah.
Brothers and sisters, if you have any questions, you may type it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and unmute to ask your question. So Brother Piya, at the moment, there's no question in the chat box.
Okay. No problem. Sit down quietly. It's been quite a difficult sutta. So remember, the key to understanding the sutta is to look at the table 1.2. And then you don't rush learning the sutta. You go according to one section at a time, beginning section 1. And then try to understand what you can. And then once you have a general idea of it, and go on to the next session like that, right? And notice the repetitions. Sometimes you notice the repetition is very close. And sometimes only change one word changes. So not all that.
Brother Piya, there's a comment from Brother LCO.
Okay.
He mentioned this is the best sutta I have ever learned.
Really?
It shows
Why?
systematically the pace of learning.
Why do you say so? Why do you say such a wonderful sutta?
Brother LCO, unmute yourself to.
I mean, if you want to, you don't want to say it's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes when we look at the sutta, we get the feel of it. We feel that we can understand it, but to say it out, to explain it, wow, it is really difficult. Many of us are like that. We have a feel for it, right? But the intellectual aspect, how to put into words, is another thing. That's why you find some scholars, they can really talk a lot about something. All right. So it starts there. You have a feel for it. You say, this sounds good to me. I feel good about it, and that's very important. You feel good about it. Sometimes even just a section of the sutta.
Brother LCO, you can unmute yourself.
It's okay. He doesn't. Sometimes we don't know what to say. It's all right.
Yeah. I just sent a message.
Oh, okay.
I just sent a message that this sutta, most importantly, teach us that from a learning level, we should go into from the ignorance level to a learning level. The most important of all the wording is the word should not.
Okay, wonderful. Yes.
Because from should not, then it becomes a very so-called penetrating reminder that if we do this, what we will get. Then we should not do this.
Right. Well, I'm happy
then,
you said that way. Yeah, that means you do understand a bit what I've said. I was afraid that I might have gone too fast and covered too much. So very good.
In actual fact, out of my 40 years of, from the past since I was 12 years old, I started searching Buddhism until now. I may seem to have just passed by this sutta, but didn't really like what you have teach. The overview that actually mentioned everything into the conceiving and conceiving. You see?
Yeah.
So basically, sometimes when we look at the whole sutta as a whole, it looks very confusing and basically it's like keep repeating, and then it may put you off from continuing to read.
Very true. Yeah.
But once you highlighted the overview and highlighted the main jewels of the system into just 4 categories, immediately that kind of enlightenment to say that, well, as an ignorant person, as an ordinary human, you just see things as they are, and you are just like what you call that, enjoying yourself in the worldly affair, and then not wanting to leave the worldly affair. But once you know that we conceive as so-called, then we learn not to conceive, and then learn should not, and then after that we understand it, then we will not be into it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'll see. Yeah, exactly. So the key is very important. That's why I call this table the key, that help you to see the overview of it. Yeah, sometimes we have seen the sutta. I mean, it's M1. It's the very first Majjhima Sutta, and yet it's one of the most difficult of the suttas. Right? Like I said, if it's difficult, it's like a big cake. It's just big cake. That's all. So you don't have to eat it at once. Take a bit, chew a bit first, and then slowly you can digest it. Okay. Any other questions?
There's no question in the chat box, Brother Piya.
Okay. It's all right, because it can be mind-boggling. You wonder, what can I ask?
Well, I have a question, if I may ask.
Yes, Wilhelm. Where are you from? Where are you from first?
Switzerland.
Okay, good.
The notion of he should not conceive. I don't know if the previous person has mentioned something about this should not. Is it a voluntary action, or is it is it happening spontaneously without effort?
Now you notice in the sutta, the Buddha is saying, let him not. So the Buddha is instructing the trainee or the learner, the sikha, stream winner, once returner, non-returner, so they're under training. So he should not. Here, there are 2 aspects to the practice. You notice there are some things we have to learn and make an effort to understand. For example, what are the Four Noble Truths? You have to learn what they are. They don't just come to you like that. Then once you understand and say, okay, dukkha is like this, then you live it like that. Now comes the involuntary aspect. You just let the understanding sink in. That is the knowledge. The knowledge sinks in, and then you look around yourself. You begin to notice patterns of events in your life around you, and they begin to fall together. And when they fall together, then you realize something, and that one is spontaneous. So learning knowledge is conscious, has to be consciously done, whereas the realization comes to you spontaneously. But you're also mindful of it. So there are 2 aspects of this learning. Okay, does that help you to the answer?
Well, you think this is implied here? It's implied that the Seika actually applies effort.
Oh yes, he has to.
In the not conceiving. in the
Yes.
not conceiving, in other words, not applying conceit and I think wrong view is already abolished. But
not necessarily in wrong view is whittled away, is lessened in stages, only totally removed in the Arhat. When in the stream winner, for example, he still has ideas of I like this, I don't like that, because he has not overcome such a desire, for example, in the case of the stream winner. So he still has to make that effort. So definitely this conscious effort has to be done, has to be made in the case of the non-arahats on the path, that is. In other words, the first three paths, the stream winner, one returner, no returner. Some effort has to be made, and then the realization will come from there. Okay, it's like you plant a seed and then it grows. Two aspects. Okay? I mean, you see that in the Buddha, he meditates, and then the awakening arises in him. So there are two aspects. Okay, so yes, the Seka, the Srimana, and so on, short of the Arahat, has to make effort, and then the realization comes naturally, spontaneously as a result.
Okay, then the question is also, can the worldling, the Puthujjana, can he make effort to, in these pursuits?
In the same way, yeah. Yes, of course. The Puthujjana can. That is a simple answer. But usually he'll be faced with so much distraction, he either doesn't have the time or the inclination. But it's possible. So that's why the commentaries categorize two kinds of Puthujjana. You have the Andha Puthujjana, the blind worldling, the one who is not interested in any of these things. And the other one is called Kalyana Puthujjana, the beautiful or the good worldling, those who at least understand the precepts and keep the precepts, and from there they practice what they can. So it's possible in their case. In fact, I would say, or I would like to say that most of us is in that category or should be in that category, trying to our best to keep the precepts and trying our best to understand the nature of impermanence, so that in this life itself we can reach the path according to the Anicca Chakku Sutta. Okay, there are 10 suttas in the chapter 25 of the Sangyutta Nikaya, which tells the same thing. If you reflect, if you as a Puthujjana reflect, Puthujjana is not mentioned, of course, but that's the understanding. If you reflect on impermanence regularly, then the realization, the effect will be, in this life itself, you attain stream winning. And the Buddha says, if not, definitely at the time of passing away. Because you build up this wonderful karma, and the passing away moment, this habitual karma will help push you along, and you'll be reborn. Or, I mean, the person will die as a stream winner or be reborn as a stream winner, in other words. So yes, it's possible for a Puthujjana, for a worldling, to attain the path, but he must make some effort. Any other question? Next question. Oh, it's nearly time, so let's.
Brother Piya, there's one question in the chat box, and Brother LC Yor raised his hand. Should I read the?
Go ahead. Sure. Yeah.
Box first. From Brother Lee Hon Sing.
Yeah.
Is there a special interpretation for earth is mine? Is mine, etc. Is it the person still has?
Yeah. These are different ways people think, how they connect to whatever is the sense object, whatever they experience. See, how we regard experience. So here, basically, what the Buddha is teaching us not to own the experience. So, okay, this idea, this earth is mine. So this my concept of earth, this is my idea. and I believe this is true, only this is true, the kind of attachment, in other words. Okay, so it's attachment to the idea, attachment to the view. Okay, so this is what the sutta is referring to us. Anyway, if you want more details on the 4 ways of self-conceiving, I can send you, because these 4 ways of conceiving are quite tricky, they're quite deep. There are lots of deep teachings in the sutta, right? So just send a note to me to Telegram and say, please send me notes on the 4 ways of self-conceiving, and I'll send you those notes.
Okay, Brother.
Yes.
Brother LCO.
Okay. So Piya, can I conclude that because from this particular overview that I'm now looking on, that as an ordinary person, we should always like to perceive things, and from perceiving, we are actually always conceiving.
Yeah.
Okay? So when conceiving, and then even myself, I thought that I have really learned Buddhism, and then it has been like, jumping on the line, left and right, between conceive, so-called, and then should not conceive. So last time I used to take it very lightly on should not conceive, thinking that like karma, you can plus and minus, sometimes you do bad karma, then you have some good karma, you plus minus, that kind of thing. So from this sutta, can I conclude that after understanding that as an ordinary person, we perceive and then we conceive everything, and now being a learner, we directly know, because we put the word under the perspective response, that we directly know and we should not conceive. And then from there, then we can break away from the learner to become, I wouldn't say the arahat, to become the what I call that, the stream winner, that then we directly know and we does not conceive anymore, because you are actually upgrading yourself from conceive to should not conceive, and then does not conceive. And if I can actually move on to this level, then the path is correct and the learning is correct.
Yes, very good. Yeah, I mean, rough. Yes, more or less. You're correct. You seem to studied the sutta before. That's wonderful. Yeah. So keep it going. Look at the diagram and then refine those ideas. Is wonderful. No? Okay. At this moment, can we just get a family photo shot? So please show yourselves in this at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yes. Yeah. That's nice. Good to see everyone here. All right. So right now, keep the photo. Woody, nice to see you. Woody's from Micah. Yeah. Okay, that's good. All right.
Lucky, we cannot see you.
Okay. That's Lucky is one of our proofreaders.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I
No, it's
know what
okay.
happened the camera. Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a beautiful picture on your screen, actually, Lucky.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, so good to see some new faces, né?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, any last minute questions? We normally allowed to go like 5-10 minutes over time.
I just to say a very big thank you.
Oh, no, I say sadhu to you because you found it so the sutta is interesting.
Yes.
I had great apprehension before I teach the sutta. I said, wow, this is really a tough sutta. I hope people will understand it, or make an effort to understand it after this. All right, no more questions, eh?
Well, I have one, and that's the root of all things.
William, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The root of all things. What is the root now?
Okay. Remember, you have 192 of them. That is, there are 8 for each 8 kinds of persons. There are 24. A cycle of 24. What I call bases. You will count. I've numbered 24 in italics, square brackets. You notice that, right? Okay, you count each of those is one of the mulas, right? So you total them all up, you get a total of 192. If you still don't get it, you look at the table 1.2. Most of the things are there. And then from the table 1.2, you look into the sutta itself, back and forth like that, and you have an idea what the roots are. The roots are how people think. There are 192 ways. Okay, so in the other sutta, in the first sutta in the Digha Nikaya, you have 62 wrong views. Right here, you have 192 of them. Okay?
Sorry to interrupt for a moment. Can I say that the root is actually also the conceiving and the perceiving? Because from the beginning, it's a root that caused all this problem.
Yeah, perceiving and conceiving is behind it, definitely. Yeah. Okay. So remember, perceiving are the senses, the work of the senses, how you sense things. Conceiving is how the mind works. Okay. All right, very good. So
actually,
yes.
Sorry, it says the root. It doesn't say the roots. It's singular. That's why I asked the question.
Oh, I see. Mula can translate either way, the root or roots. The root teaching or the teaching on roots. Pali is quite flexible. You can interpret different ways as long as it's in keeping with within the limits of the sutta. So if you look at the general idea, the Buddha is talking, what is the root of existence? Okay, or he can also say, what are the roots of existence? If you say the root, you can say ignorance, as a one term. But in this case, he lays out in detail how we are rooted in all these ideas that are itself rooted in ignorance, and this brings us suffering. Okay, so the Pali is quite flexible. Yeah. Okay. So no more urgent questions, right? Okay, so we will end here for tonight, and of course we have another sutta 2 weeks time. So let us spend a quiet moment together. Now, if you still have some questions that you trouble you, just message to us on Telegram, okay, or Facebook. Let us close with a short reflection. First of all, let me thank everyone for your support during this difficult time Ratna is going through, and our family is going through too. And your support and kindness have helped us a lot in many ways. So this is a time to recall this moment we spent together. This is a celebration of our good karma, to be able to gather together from different countries through this wonderful way of meeting through cyberspace. Remember this moment, you have kept the precepts, you have done some meditation, you studied the suttas. All these are wonderful good things. Next time you want to meditate, remember all these good things. Do not think of negative things. All these positive things will help you in your meditation. And also at this moment, with this happy mind of ours, let us send these thoughts, first of all, to ourselves, that we may be well and happy to study the sutta and practice. And to our loved ones, our friends, even those who are not so friendly to us, that they may be well and happy, so that they look kindly upon us, and we kindly upon them. So at this point, let us show our gratitude to the three jewels, to the Buddha, our teacher, to his teaching, the Dhamma, and to the Sangha, the holy community of saints. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namassami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.